If one person leaves your organization tomorrow and it changes your entire team, that person had more influence than the org chart ever suggested. And unfortunately, leaders don't pick up on this until it's too late. Most leaders think that the organizational chart owns the influence in your team. That's not the case. Because every team has those people that hold that influence, and it's never assigned to them. The person who everybody goes to before they make a decision. The person who sets the emotional tone of your team. The person that everybody gravitates around when leadership credibility is low. And when leadership fails to identify these people, progress will slow. Trust breaks. Resistance will form. Because leaders end up fighting something that they don't understand. Because they were paying attention to titles when they should have been paying attention to influence. One of the biggest mistakes a leader can make is not understanding that authority and influence are two totally separate things. Because they are. Authority, that comes from position. But influence, this comes from trust. And trust is what people follow in uncertainty. So watch what happens when you have a major organizational change, whether it is a process change, a policy change, a new initiative. Who does your team gravitate toward once that is announced? Who does everybody go to ask the questions? Because they're not going to ask the questions in the meeting. They're going to go to that trusted person after the meeting is over. And that person right there, that person is your key player. Not because they have authority, but because they have credibility. And the dangerous part, most leaders don't recognize it. They put all of their emphasis in supervisors and managers and directors. Meanwhile, someone else is quietly shaping how your team is going to respond. Every industry has this, but in healthcare, it is incredibly prominent. Whether it's a senior nurse, whether it's a senior tech even, or it's a veteran dispatcher, or a really respected paramedic. Someone with no formal power, but they influence the behavior all around them. When leaders ignore that, they're going to have nothing but an uphill battle. Not because ideas are bad, but because the wrong people are engaged. This situation right here is why we've created our 10 leadership mistakes playbook. If you're having problems with this or you know somebody who is, send me an email. I'll send you a copy of it. Most leadership failures, they don't start from bad intentions. They start from these blind spots. And one of the biggest blind spots is not actually knowing who is influencing your team. The second mistake is not paying attention to these people until there's a problem, until they're causing issues. By this time, you're way behind. With strong leaders, they sit back and they watch. They study the patterns. They study who people listen to, who those people trust, who calms tension in a crisis, who escalates tension when there's no tension to be escalated, who gets asked the questions after the meeting, who do people gravitate toward when things are uncertain. Because influence, it leaves clues. But here's the challenge. Not every influence is positive. Every team has a positive key player. Most teams have negative ones. So the question is, who's the one that builds trust? Who's the one that builds resistance? Who's the one that stabilizes culture? Who's the one that undermines it? Because your job as a leader isn't to label either of these. Your job as a leader is to understand the influence network before it surprises you. Because when your team is under pressure, people aren't going to follow the org chart. They're going to follow the person that they trust. If you're unsure as to who these people are, here's an exercise for you. For the next 2 weeks, watch your team. Watch what they do and ask 3 questions. Number 1, who do people go after the meetings? Not during, but after. That tells you who they trust. Question 2, when uncertainty happens, who calms the room? Every team has an emotional stabilizer. You need to find them. Question 3, if somebody left tomorrow, who would be that one person that would create the biggest ripple effect? Because that's your key player. Now, once you've identified these people, you need to go talk to them. not to manipulate them, not to strong arm them, but to understand them. These people are going to have enormous insight as to how your team works and how your team ticks, because they're going to have more insight than anybody else in this organization. This will be incredibly important if you are new to an organization or you're just even a new leader. I've used this strategy time and time again. The last time I used it, I was in an emergency department. And believe me, I had a lot of very strong personalities. However, I had a very small core of these very influential people. And by bringing them in and collaborating with them and understanding how they worked and how they communicated, I was able to be very successful with communication throughout the entire team, and we were able to get a lot of stuff done. The best leaders don't just understand process. They understand the people. They understand their team, because every organization does have hidden influence. And the leaders who recognize this early, they get trust faster. They communicate better, and they navigate change without far less resistance than others. If any of this helped you, hit subscribe. If you would like your playbook, send me an email, because leadership problems, they're not random. They're very predictable if you know what to watch for.